Hi, Terry.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm Sheri.
Okay,
And
nice to meet you.
nice to meet you as well. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Thank you so much for coming in today to Confession Box.
It's an honor.
I've read at least a bit of what you sent in, and I must say, number one, it's written very poetically, and I have a feeling that that might relate to your story, but we'll see. Let's start out with just asking you, what is your intention in going public with your story?
To inspire change. When I was younger, I made a lot of bad choices. Some of them by my own admission, and some were brought upon me. But the choices and consequences of my life, I know that others have experienced that. And sometimes we try to hide our scars and cover them up. And I just want it to be open and honest so other people will know, like, hey, because they see me as this beautiful woman and they don't know actually what I've been through. And I wanted to just share that so others can feel comfortable with sharing their story like I shared mine, and let them know that if I can change or I have went through this and survived, that they can too.
Perfect. Those are some of the goals of this show, and so you're a perfect match for the show. I can see why you were chosen. Let's get a little quick bio of you, just the basics. You know, your name, your little bit where'd you grow up, before we really dive into the story itself.
My name is Terry Coleman. I'm 50 years old. I was born February the 1st to my mother and father, Lonnie and Queen Coleman, in Fruitland Park, Florida. I'm the sister of three brothers. I have three brothers and me. And I grew up very well, sort of like the Brady Bunch. We took trips. We had the average Brady Bunch family. Yeah, that's how I like to see it. You know, where everybody got along, and it wasn't always good, but we had our rough times. But I just had a blessed childhood. When I see the way people grow up today, or the children that are being raised today, it saddens me because I never knew life without a father or knew other siblings outside of my family. Those were things I wasn't experiencing. I knew to sit down at 6 o'clock and we ate. We took family vacations every year throughout the year. So I was privileged. And those are the things I took for granted. So, but my childhood was beautiful. My mom was a very giving and loving woman. And I kind of inherited some of those traits of her. I remember her, she would give her last. And she always fed and always kind, but it was taken as she was crazy because she was so kind-hearted and she was just unique. And in her own right, she would say things to people and they would be kind of like, what is she talking about? And she just showed love, and love was not, you know, you shouldn't express it in the way that she did. And it was considered that she was weird or she was strange, she was crazy. So I kind of resented my mother after, you know, my peers would lash out and say negative things in regards to her as well as her weight. So I never wanted to be fat because she was heavy. She has gained weight due to her medication. And these were very hurtful moments, and I was resentful of my mother. And I regret that, but I talk about that. Those were one of the things I had to release and forgive myself for.
Okay, wow, thank you. And it's interesting that you mentioned Brady Bunch because I'm an only child, and I've all through the years I've said I just wanted to be like the Brady Bunch. I wanted brothers and sisters and two parents. So it's interesting, very very different background.
But
Yes,
may I add, I
please.
also, growing up, and I think this is very important, me, I hated negativity. I hated violence. And it would, when I would watch the news or things that went on in the world, or even in our own communities, I was always the peacemaker. So I had the name, the love child. So, because I never wanted to see people fight. And if someone would try to fight me, I would actually walk away. And they would hit me and I'll just keep walking and they would call me scary and all of that, but I didn't care. I just knew I didn't want to fight. I didn't want hatred or anger.
Wow.
So,
I wish the world could be more like that.
yeah.
Well, then let's dive into your story and what you told us about. And one structure that I've used earlier today is past, present, and future, and that might fit, give you some way of approaching the story, but it doesn't have to. But if it feels like starting with the past, talking about your story, and then we can move ahead like that, that's fine. So just go on and start telling your story.
Okay. So I always dreamed of being a model. And I got the opportunity with Stella J. Brown to model. And it was heartbreaking when she told me I couldn't model because I started gaining weight. I was 5'7.5" and 120 pounds. I went from 120 to 140. And I was like a stick. But with the weight gain, it was like, I can't use you. You need to lose the weight. And my dream was shattered. But before that, I gotta go back. So I'm sorry, y'all.
No, and it's okay, and this is a safe space.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of emotion today, and that's one of the things that helps other people who are going through similar challenges. So don't be afraid of, we can handle the emotion. That's fine.
My dreams were shattered way before the weight gain. When I was raped at the age of 16 by a boy that I liked, but I didn't want to have sex with him. He was a 21-year-old man. And he forced himself upon me, and I ended up getting pregnant. Now, I like also, because I talk about this in my story, but I have to be accountable for my actions, because had I listened to my parents, I wouldn't have been in that space to have that happen to me. But being that it happened, I ended up getting pregnant, and my parents, the guy that did it, he was part of a gang in Florida, Miami boy. And I was afraid to tell my parents what really happened because I didn't know if they would retaliate. Because my dad was crazy. He had a gun, and his only daughter, he would have went and tried to kill this man. So for the safety of my family and the freedom of my father, I kept quiet. My parents thought I was out being fast, and my peers called me names, and I dropped out of school. So my dreams at that moment was, because I wanted to go off to New York and act and model. So I had my daughter, because my parents didn't believe in abortion. So that's when Stella J. Brown saw me walking in the mall, and she gave me the opportunity that I wanted for the lifetime that I thought that I was going to. So when she told me that I couldn't do what I've always wanted to do because of my weight gain, which was a reflection of my mother, it was like, oh my God, this is not good. So I went to any means necessary to try to lose weight. I took the diet pills. I went to I hate to sweat. I was too cute to sweat. So I was introduced to cocaine by a friend who told me it would help me to lose weight. And this is how the enemy will come to deceive you. And being that I was so eager to lose weight quickly, I was eager to try it. Being that I was totally against drugs. But I tried it, and I lost more than weight. So I ended up, one thing led to another, and on several occasions, I almost lost my life. I was actually abducted by a KKK member in Ocala, Florida, I was a part of his initiation. And for him to be initiated, he was to kill a black person and bring their body back, and then they fed it to the alligators. And this was the hardest chapter for me to get through, or the hardest story, because I never knew hatred, and I faced it head on. So I know what people go through when they're begging for their lives.
This is so much, obviously. The abduction, what age were you then? We heard a bit more about the rape in your age and some of those circumstances. How old were you with the abduction? Can you just tell a little bit more about that?
I was in my 20s, my early 20s. I'm going to say I was about 25. I had been up for 3 days getting high with my friend. I had a fiance that I was living with. I wasn't one, even though I did drugs, I wasn't one to be like out there selling my body and, just doing anything for drugs. I didn't do that. I was very cunning. I learned that. I was the only girl. So I was pretty, my family had money. My godfather had money. So I was a little manipulator. So I would manipulate and get high with one of my buddies or something like that, or spend, get money or spend my money. But my god brother, this particular day didn't want to take me home. And I had been up for 3 days getting high. And I was so tired. I wanted to go to my boyfriend's house and just lay down because I lived with him. And he said he would take me home. And he actually got this guy that he said he knew to take me home. And I asked him, I said, do you know this guy? He said, yeah, he cool. I'm thinking it's one of his customers because he sold drugs. And he didn't. And the guy, instead of him making the right turn on the way to my boyfriend's house, he made a left turn. And I'm thinking it's okay. He said he had to go to his brother's house to pick up some money and he'll bring me right back. Would I ride with him? I say, oh, okay, sure. And he took me to the forest. I didn't even realize it. It was like an out-of-body experience that I can't even explain some of the things that took place. But I know I wasn't supposed to be here. I remember taking my last breath, and I almost took his life. But I'm not going to tell the full story. But I did write a book, and I disclose every detail of that moment.
Okay, and before we say goodbye today, we'll find out, you can tell people where they can find the book and that kind of thing. Wow, okay. So then, after that, what would you say the next part of the story is?
I saw the guy back in 1999. This was in June 26th of 1996. And I saw him again. And I recognized him by the truck that he was driving. And I went back to him, and I was going to call the police, and but I couldn't. Something came over me, and the only thing I could do is look him in his eyes, and I grabbed his hand, and I said, I forgive you. And he cringed, and he pulled back. But I knew at that moment something changed within him, because he knew something happened that night that was unexplainable. So as time went on, I still, did my thing. But at that moment, it was always, I reflected back on that moment. I always thought people were trying to kill me. It was a very traumatic experience, and I would never wish that upon anybody. So it's really sad when people hate people because of the color of their skin and want to take their lives. So when Ahmaud Arbery was running for his life, because he was being chased, and so many others. It's heartening. It just breaks my heart to see the hatred, and it really breaks my heart to see the hatred amongst our own communities, our own race. The black on black crime, the hatred within itself is sad. And that's another reason I wrote the book. I want to be able to make a difference. I'm sorry.
No, nothing to be sorry about. It's hard to know where to go with the conversation. Have you been able to get support for yourself?
Yes, my family is very supportive. And I just started writing and speaking out. And just showing love.
If you can go through those kinds of experiences and still show love, that's quite a model for others. What do you think has given you the ability to survive?
My faith. Because everything that I've experienced, I know that there's something out there greater than we can ever imagine. And I held on to that. Because I wasn't supposed to be here. I'm like a cat. I have 9 lives. I'm grateful. Thank God for that. But I know that He has a purpose for my life. And it's for me to spread the message of hope and love. And to let us know that no matter what life looks like, never give up. Because I didn't. And I'm sitting here today. And the biggest thing was when I tried to tell my story, I was ashamed because people look down on people like me who did drugs. I was nothing in my community once I did drugs. Look at Terry. She used to be so beautiful. And whenever I would say, hey, I did drugs, because I wanted to share that story and people to be proud of me because I stopped, but it was the opposite. They would look down on me and turn their nose upon me as if I was the scum of the earth. And I knew at that moment, no matter what someone is dealing with in their lives, I never want to look down on them, but embrace them. And I got to share this little story because it's very important for the human race. One day I was walking to get some drugs on that very street where that man picked me up, which was prior to the man picking me up. No, it was right after. It was 3 ladies. One was a missionary, and one was a pastor, and the other was just a member in the church. They just left church. It was on a Sunday. I'll never forget it. And I was walking to get some drugs. And I could hear them. Now, these people knew me all their lives. They said, look at Terry. She used to be so pretty. I bet you she'll do anything for drugs. Look at her. Ugh, don't make no sense. At that moment, I just wanted to die. I was hoping that I got so high that my life ended because I was nothing. These ladies knew me. They saw me. I was nothing. I go down the street a little bit farther, and this lady, she had a table, and it was set up, and she had a big bullhorn. I'll never forget it. She said, "Baby, come here." And I'm like, "Oh, Lord, somebody else finna put me down." So I reluctantly walk over to her, and I say, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "I just want you to know, God loves you, and so do I." And I thought to myself, I say, how does this woman love me? She don't even know me. And at that moment, God revealed to me that we cannot judge people by the choices that they make. We have to show them love. Because had I went and died, then my blood would have been on someone who's professing to be a woman or women of God in the church saving souls, but they would have let my soul go by with the gossip of, look at her. She used to be so pretty. I bet you she'd do anything for drugs. So God gave me this poem, and I would like to share that with you, may I? It's called Analyze This, because so often we try to judge, but there's only one judge, and that's God. And we need to look at the heart of the man. Analyze this. Are we trying to analyze that? Looking down on those who still sell drugs or get high off drugs like crack. See, I'm not telling you what I heard. I'm telling you what I know. I was chosen to walk the path of destruction. So those who are lost, we can show. We all need to lift each other up. You never know how a positive word might encourage those who are corrupt. Never think you too good or be afraid to give a helping hand. Let's come together and help the brother man. Anyone can change. Look at me. If I can, you can too. We should all walk in love. We all have it in us from heaven above. Each day we wake up, we are blessed. World has come together and do our very best. This is a blessed day that the Lord has made. The path of blessings has already been laid. We make a lot of bad choices, yeah. We might regret it, but it's time to move on. We can't change the past. Learn from it and forget it. Walk in love and repent. One day you might wish you had of. One step at a time, so let's climb to Jacob's ladder. So world, let's put down the guns, the gossip, the drugs, the bottles, the smokes in your fists. Not much time left. Our choice. Let's come together. So analyze this.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you for allowing me to.
When did you write that?
I wrote that shortly after that incident with the ladies. And that's how I've always been able to write. It's like everything that I've ever been through is an actual testimony of what I experienced to be able to give. And God gave it to me in a way it was poetic.
Sheri, thank you so much for sharing that beautiful poem, powerful poem.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I believe that your book might have more poetry in it. And so could you just tell us more about your book, please?
Well, my book is a book of poetry, but I didn't want to just write a poetry book. I took it a step farther because each poem that I've ever written, it was meaning behind it. And I wanted you to feel what I was going through every time I wrote a poem. I wanted you to know what that experience was. So I gave you the poem with the actual experience and why that poem was written. So you can have a complete understanding, because people write poetry, and you can interpret it in your own. But I wanted you to know what I went through, because each poem is my actual testimony. So I give you the poem with the testimony. And then, as time grew by, I had to be accountable for some of the things that I chose to do, as well as some of the things, and as well as forgive. So it's a book about accountability, forgiveness, and just being honest.
Thank you. Can you, even though we do have the backdrop there, could you just tell us again the title of the poem and how people would get it.
The book is entitled A Poetic Testimony. I Am a Masterpiece. So I came up with a creative way to put up the picture that I had for my cover and make it a puzzle piece. And they can get it on Amazon, Amazon.com. It's in print as well as digital. Also, I want to tell the story on how I got there. I was listening to Jermaine Dupri did a song with the Clark sisters, and he was like my inspiration, my muse. Him and Tamara Simmons, who I actually talk about in my book, just through social media, just following them and watching them, they inspired me to keep going, because I had other people that were in the industry who kind of bashed me and kind of like, and we're not going to get into that, but just from afar, and he had wrote this song, I'm a Masterpiece, with the Clark sisters. And that's when I came up with the subtitle, I Am a Masterpiece. And I don't owe them no money. I'm not paying y'all. But that was how I came up with it. I was like, that's perfect. I'm a masterpiece, because I didn't have one. So I put that with the puzzle piece, because I'm still being put together. Even though I may look like this, I still have issues that I deal with, on a day-to-day basis, because daily I grow. Every day that I'm blessed to wake up, I try to make a difference in my life as well as someone else's. But first we have to start with ourselves, and I had to learn to love me. So.
Wonderful. And if people do want to reach you, is there a way of doing that? Can just tell us.
I have a movement I started, which is called T-Love Movement, Daily Acts of Kindness. I started this back in 2005 when I was living in Baltimore. I would actually go out and speak with the gangbangers, the drug dealers, and the homeless people. I would make bag lunches, and people was like, don't go out there and talk to them. I was like, no, why not? And I did, and I reached out, and it's been a blessing, because I know lives were touched as well as changed. And that's just all God wants us to do. But T-Love Movement across the board on IG, Facebook, that's my email address, and it give you all my contact information. T-Love Movement, be contagious, spread love is the motto.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. What gives you hope for the future, both individually and for the world?
Love. Love. I have enough to give. So that's within me. When I could turn a frown into a smile, just walking up to somebody saying hi, and they could be having a bad day and be like, and people could feel the energy that God has given me to give, and I try to give that everywhere I go. I'm contagious.
I love it. Love using contagious in a positive way. Yes. During these times.
Yes. Well, speaking of contagious, I have a fragrance that I created called T-Love's Contagious. It goes along with the Be Contagious, Spread Love. And I'd like to turn the negative into positive. So when people say contagious, it's to inspire love.
That's great. Thank you for that. And so now's the time on Confession Box to ask you to reach over and open up the box. You take out any envelope that calls to you.
Dig around in here.
And then,
so pretty.
And then you can open the card up, look at the word, and show us the word, and let us know if it resonates with things we've talked about today.
Ooh.
Wow. So what do you think that's about?
I was ashamed. I was ashamed of my family. I was ashamed of my weight. I was ashamed of my past. And I had to learn to not be ashamed of how God made me to be, not be ashamed of the things that I've went through, because it can help someone else. So we got to conquer our shameful ways, which is fear. You know, we are fearful of what people think, and we need to not care about what people think. Just do what's in your heart.
Excellent. Well, having seen that word and found that connection with it, do you feel that you're ready to close this chapter in your life by placing that word back in the confession box? Or do you feel like you need more time to process that word virtually? And if so, hold on to your confession with hopes to revisit it another day.
Girl, I'm finna put this back in the box. No, I am fully, I still have some issues, with my weight, but I'm gonna put it back in the box because I know that's gonna be no longer an issue for me. But all the other things, nah, I'm done with it.
Excellent. Putting it away metaphorically. Excellent. Well,
Shame, go back.
there we go. Yes, go back in that box. Thank you again for being with us and sharing everything you shared. You've had an amazing journey, and you have turned it all around to good work and service and inspiring others. I know that everything you shared will inspire others, so thank you.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you.